Hey everyone, this is NoJoe from Thranda Design, and in partnership with Just Flight, we are working on our BAe146. This is the third video in the tutorial series. Today, we're looking at taxi, takeoff, and initial climb procedures. Now, before we proceed, we're going to set up two buttons in our joystick. So I'm going to go up here to X-Plane Settings window, Joystick, and I'm going to select my throttle, and we're going to set up a button for Toga, which is using X-Plane's default command, autopilot takeoff go around, which is sim autopilot takeoff go around. This is used for the autopilot, the flight director, to set up the initial climb. And then on the stick, we'll have a button for control wheel steering mode. This is used in the BAe's autopilot for the sync mode, as in synchronize, SYNC, and this is X-Plane's default sim autopilot control wheel steer command. So here we are in the cockpit. We have the engines up and running. Normally we would have set up the departure procedure before starting the engines, so let's do that now so that we're ready. Today we're taking off from Kahului Airport on the island of Maui in Hawaii. We'll be taking off runway 2 for the Beach 4 departure Lanai transition. I'll have a link to that departure procedure in the description if you want to follow along. You totally don't have to, but it'll be there in case you want to. So we're going to set up Maui VOR 115.1 active on nav1. Standby for nav1, we're going to set up Lanai VOR 117.7. And over here in nav2, 117.7 for Lanai VOR. The departure procedure is, after passing 1,400, a climbing right turn to intercept Maui VOR course 195 to the VOR. So we're going to set 195 in nav1. There it is. And once we reach beach intersection, we'll be 270 inbound to the Lanai VOR. So we're going to set that in nav2. We're going to verify the split switch is on split, meaning pilot's HSI shows nav1, co-pilot's shows nav2. If we're in nav1, they both show nav1, or they both show nav2 and nav2. So we're going to set that to split. Additionally, our runway heading is 024, so we're going to set that on the heading bug right there. And our initial altitude is going to be 12,000, 12,000, so I'll set that in there. And I'm going to verify on our RMI, we have both needles set to VOR rather than ADF, and we're getting DME. Alright, we are set up for the departure. So now we are ready to taxi. Let's go up and turn on our taxi lights, move those down, and let's bring up our checklist. Before takeoff. So we're going to do one of these first before we move anywhere. Brakes, yellow and green checked, and then yellow. So right now our brakes are set to the yellow hydraulic system, and we have pressure from the yellow, but no pressure from the green. We're going to verify, if we move this to green, we should get pressure on the green system and not the yellow. Good. So we're just verifying that our parking brakes work on the green system, and we'll set them back to yellow. Next, flaps. Select to 18, and we'll verify that they're indicating 18 in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and start taxiing now, and we'll go through the rest of the checklist on the roll here. So I'm going to increase thrust a little bit, bring it up, and release the brakes. There we go, we start rolling. I'm going to check the brakes. Now to steer on the ground, we can use the tiller here, the nose wheel tiller, click and drag, or you can just use your normal yaw axis. I just have a twist joystick, and so I can just use my normal yaw axis to taxi. So as we go, we're going to check our flight instruments. We're verifying the attitude indicators remain upright. The HSI and RMI indicate a turn. Airspeed is 0. Altimeter is set 29905. Standby altimeter set 29905. And the vertical speed shows 0 climb. Next, flight director. That can be controlled by this switch here. We're going to turn on the flight director, and we're going to go ahead and set up the autopilot modes. So we're going to press the Toga button, takeoff go around, and we see this engages go around mode, which commands 0 roll and 10 degrees nose up pitch. Also, we're going to arm that initial altitude for 12,000 feet, so we see altitude indicated in white, showing that it's armed. Our trims. Usually we want the pitch trim right there in the lower part of the green, just like that. Rudder and aileron trims are centered. Config check. So once we get to the other side of the runway here, we'll check the config. Let me skip ahead to that real quick. Alright, for that config check, we have this little button right down here behind the throttles. Config check. We can press it, and nothing happens. And that's good. That's checking that the airplane's in the correct configuration. If our flaps were not extended, or if the air brake was extended, then we would get, let's actually do that. I'll extend the air brake. Now we'll press config check. We get this config warning and a master warning, and that tells us that we're not in the proper configuration for takeoff. When we advance the throttles for takeoff, the airplane will automatically do those same checks as well, so this will just save us some embarrassment if we forgot something. So nav aids and transponder set. We already set up our nav aids. I'm just verifying our frequencies are in there. That's good. Our courses are set. That's all looking good. Our transponder, we've got 0456 in there. If we wanted to change the transponder code, we could just type in the new one. Let's say 0234. After a couple seconds, the cursor goes away, and there, we have our new squawk code inputted. Next, briefing. This will be our crew briefing for takeoff, reviewed and complete. We're going to skip that for today. Engine ignition, continuous ignition A and B, as required. So let me bring us to a stop here at the hold short line. Sorry, I'm taxing a little crazy. Come to a stop. You can probably hear my brakes button there. That'll be these guys. If we want to turn on the engine igniters, we can turn those on. We're going to have those off for this takeoff. Cabin secure. You can go here and
cabin crew, please take your seats for takeoff.
Make sure the cabin crew is ready for takeoff. Radar, as required, that's going to be off. AC pump comes on. This is our hydraulic AC pump. Lights and strobes on. So strobe light, logo light, we don't need, it's not nighttime. And we're going to go to landing lights on. TMS set. So today, a little bit warmer. We're about 24 Celsius, so 24. Power, and we'll go to takeoff mode. So this tells us 92.2 is our takeoff thrust. That's good. Controls checked. Verifying our controls are free. And we can see our roll spoilers deflecting as we roll left and right. And finally, master warning system checked. So right now we have the parking brake on and the brake fan selected on. That's normal when the brake fans are on auto. Okay, we're ready for takeoff. Time to go line up. All right, we're cleared for takeoff. We're going to release the brakes and bring our thrust levers smoothly up to the takeoff setting of 92.2 for today. And once we get close enough, the TMS is going to take over and fine-tune each of the throttles to get the setting just right. So there it is.
Speed alive, both sides.
We hear our Captain Martin giving the call-outs.
80 knots cross-checked.
Now we're just waiting for V1 and rotation speed.
V1, rotate.
There we go.
V2.
So we're going to pitch right on up to 10 degrees.
Positive rate of climb, gear up.
Positive rate of climb, gear up. And since we already set that speed bug, it's getting a little fast, I'm going to pitch up a little more and adjust the pitch trim to maintain our speed bug of V2 plus 10. Now that we're here, I'm going to quickly engage the control wheel steering button. I'll press and release it, and that resets our pitch and roll. And let's just engage the autopilot. So now the autopilot servos are engaged, and it's going to be holding that pitch and roll. So we're coming up rapidly on our altitude. Let's engage heading mode. We'll start that right turn. And now that we're past 1,500 feet, I'm just going to press and hold control wheel steering and lower that nose back down so we can start accelerating so we can get those flaps retracted. So right up about there, between 500 and 1,000 feet per minute, we're going to engage vertical speed mode. So now the autopilot should maintain
safe height speed.
That speed.
Select flaps up.
So Martin tells us we're at VFTO, safe height speed, so we're going to select flaps up. So now the autopilot's going to have to use quite a bit of trim, pitch trim, to compensate for those flaps. If we weren't using autopilot, we'd have to do that manually. It's just kind of a quirk of this plane, especially from 0 to 18 degrees of flap. There's a lot of pitch change there. All right, so we're going to keep that heading coming around so we can intercept our departure course. And as our speed builds up to about 250, we're going to engage indicated airspeed mode, IAS mode, and that will maintain 250 knots for the rest of the climb. So we're almost there. There we go, IAS mode. And Now that we're done with the takeoff, we're into climb. We can smoothly pull the power back. We're going to go to sync mode on the TMS. And we're going to set our climb power of 88% initially. And that increases by 1% for every 5,000 feet. So 88% at sea level, 89% at 5,000 feet, 90% at 10,000 feet, and so on and so forth. If we want to climb very quickly, we could climb in maximum continuous mode, right here, MCT, and that will use the TMS to set 857 degrees on the turbine gas temperature. But we don't want to do that for right now. So we're just waiting for our course to come in, and we can start going through our checklist. For takeoff, after takeoff, gear up and lights out, that's good. Flaps are up. TMS as required, we're in sync mode. Oh, here comes our course. Let's intercept that. And we're going to go to VL mode. That's VOR or localizer mode, so it should hold that nav course. Engine air on. So now that we're in the climb, we're going to turn the bleed airs on for the engine, and we'll turn the APU air off. Verifying the air conditioning packs are on. Yes, they are. And pressurization. We can come down here and we can see, indeed, we have some delta P, some pressure differentials, so we know that we are properly pressurizing. Alright, we'll skip ahead real quick to the next step. Alright, so we're just coming up on 10,000 feet. That's when we'll go through the next checklist. So we're going to skip ahead, climb check. So 10,000 feet, 10,000, lights off, and 15 miles, so we've got a few miles to go before we make our turn. Altimeters, as required, cross-checked, so they're all good. AC pump comes off. We're actually going to set it back to auto to arm it again. PTU comes off. Brake fans, auto or off. We'll leave it on auto. With the gear retracted, the brake fans will be off. APU, stop. Ice protection as required. We'll just leave the windscreen heat and pitot heat on. We don't need the airframe de-ice or the engine de-ice. And lights and notices. Oh, there's 15. We're going to make our turn to 270 for the departure procedure. Lights and notices. At night, at 10,000, this is when we would turn off our logo light. But we don't need that. Alright, we'll skip ahead to the next step. Alright, we've leveled at our intermediate altitude. Let's say we were given our new altitude, climb and maintain 240, flight level 240. So we'll set that in the autopilot panel, arm it. Let's go to VS mode, vertical speed mode. We're going to increase thrust back up to climb. And I'm going to press and hold the control wheel steering button, or the sync button, and just manually raise the nose. And I'll raise it up to about 2,000 foot per minute climb. And when I release, now the autopilot will command a 2,000 foot per minute climb. And we're just coming up on 18,000 feet, which, at least in the US, is transition altitude, where we'll set the altimeters back to 29902. Of course, that's different in different parts of the world, but I'm just doing that here for now. So the next checklist will be descent, so that'll be in the next video. We are well on our way. As our airspeed's coming back down to 250, I'm actually going to transition back from vertical speed to indicated airspeed hold mode. So the autopilot will pitch down slightly so we can capture that. And off we go, climbing to flight level 240. It's going to be, we'll be in cruise for a while, and I'll see you on the other end of this flight in the next video. Thank you for watching.